So in the previous video, we've seen how to get access to your own SAP instance. So if you have followed those instructions and set up your own system, then in this video, I'll walk you through the steps to access the SAP system and how to log into the SAP system, and then how you can navigate using the SAP GUI screen. So we'll see the various elements that you find on the screen, and then we'll try to understand how you can open different applications in SAP. At the end of this video, I'll also give you a walkthrough on various ABAP Workbench tools that we typically use to develop different applications in SAP. So if you have followed the previous video and set up your own SAP system, and if you could configure your logon pad successfully, then once you double click on the entry in the logon pad or select the entry and click on this logon button, I'm using SAP GUI for Windows, and I highly recommend you also use SAP GUI for Windows for practicing ABAP, because SAP GUI for Windows provides all the features that we need to create various applications in SAP. Some of the features may be missing in SAP GUI for Java, and if you want to use Eclipse IDE, you can also use that for developing applications. But again, for ABAP, there are few features which are missing in Eclipse IDE. So for ABAP, I recommend that you install SAP GUI for Windows and use it for practicing or following this course. Even if you are using a Mac, you can use Bootcamp to install Windows and then install SAP GUI for Windows in that and use that for practicing. That way you'll have all the features that you need to develop various applications in SAP. For example, if you use SAP GUI for Java in Mac, then some of the features like the new editor or the screen painter, these things will be missing. So it becomes difficult to follow those topics when you're using SAP GUI for Java. I recommend that if possible, get access to a Windows system and use SAP GUI for Windows for practicing your assignments. So once you set up your logon pad, double click on the entry that you have created. So this entry will have all those details about the application server IP address and the instance name, and use your username password to log into the system. I'll be using this IDA system for this training because I'll be using some test data available in the IDA system for showing you various examples. If you are using the developer trial edition, some of the data may be missing. So one option is you can create that data, or else I recommend that using the Cloud Appliance library, you can set up your own IDAS instance and use it for practicing. The developer edition, using the developer edition, you can practice everything in ABAP. It's just that some data could be missing. So you have to manually set up some data for running your programs to test your code against the data. Unfortunately, the Cloud Appliance library should be used only for personal use, and I'm really not too sure whether the license terms permit it to be used for training. So just to be on the safe side, I'm taking the remote access from a legal SAP server access provider, and their terms allow me to use their system for training and recording training videos. So I'll be using that system for this training. But if you are using Cloud Appliance library to set up your IDA system, your system should be exactly same as my system, and you should be able to open any transactions that I'll be opening in this course, and you'll be able to look at any tables that I'll be opening in this course. On the logon screen, you need to enter the client number. By default for the IDA system, it will be 800. Then enter your username password. And by default, the language will be selected as English. So you can just leave it as it is. And once you enter the details, hit enter on your keyboard or click on this button. So this button that you see on the screen is the enter button. So either you can click on this button or simply hit enter on the keyboard. And it will take you to a screen called the Easy Access screen. So this is the Easy Access screen. That is the first screen. You can think of it as some home page. So this is the first screen that will be displayed when you log into an SAP system. On this screen, I'll first walk you through the different elements that you find on a typical SAP GUI screen. So on this Easy Access screen, you'll have this folder structure, which we call the SAP menu. So from here, it has a tree-like structure using which you can navigate to open different applications in SAP. So for example, If you are a developer, then you can expand this tools folder. Then we have this ABAP Workbench, and from here development, and you have various workbench tools that you can run to carry out various activities or development activities. Similarly, if you are into logistics, then you can expand this logistics folder, sales and distribution, sales, and it will list various applications related to sales, like sales orders, all these things. So if you want to create a sales order, for example, you can double click on this and it will open the application to create the sales order. Since I'm using a remote system, it will take some time to open those applications. So this is the drawback of using a remote system. Whereas if you install it locally, the developer edition, it will be much faster. So this is the application you can use to create a sales order. So this is the standard SAP Easy Access screen that you see once you log into the SAP system. There's also something called user menu. Once you join a company or join an organization, for example, the basis consultant will set up a user ID for you, and when he's setting up that user ID, based on your role in the company, whether you're a sales guy, you're a developer, you're a basis administrator, you're a HR guy, so based on your role in the company, they'll create something called a profile, which has specific authorizations. So as a sales guy, you will be given authorizations to access only sales related applications. Similarly, as an HR executive, you'll be given authorizations to access HR related applications. And as a developer, you'll be given access to authorizations to access various ABAP development related applications, which we call ABAP Workbench Tools. So based on the role in the organization, you will be assigned this specific authorization, and as per that, you will be getting a customized menu. So if I click on this user menu, it will change the menu. So since this user account is set up for development, so I'm getting development related folders, right? So I can switch between my user menu and the SAP menu by clicking on these buttons. Any SAP screen that you see has few fixed elements on it. So let me walk you through those elements. The elements that you see on the SAP screen, the GUI screen, are, we have something called menu bar. Then we have standard toolbar. Then we have the title bar. Then we have something called application toolbar. And we have status bar. So any SAP application that you open will have these things on the screen, and each has a specific purpose. So for example, this is your menu bar that you see on the top. This has various menu options that you can use to carry out various activities. Like any menu that you see, any software application that you open has a specific menu options, right? So similarly, the SAP GUI screen has the menu bar where different menu options will be available, and this menu bar changes based on the application. So for certain applications, it shows different options, and for another application, it might show a different set of options. So this menu bar is completely customized to an application that you're running. So based on the application that you open, you'll see that application specific menu options. And when you develop your own applications, we'll be designing a menu bar for that application as well. So when I'm creating an application, then based on what the user wants in the menu, I'll be adding those options in the menu bar. So this is your menu bar. And below that menu bar, we have this standard toolbar. So this we call the standard toolbar. As the name suggests, the buttons that you see in the standard toolbar are standard for all the applications. So irrespective of which application you open, you will see the same set of buttons. The only difference will be, for some applications, some of the buttons can be disabled, and for some it could be enabled. But the number of buttons that you see will remain the same. So that's why we call it a standard toolbar. So when we develop our own applications also, we can enable some of these buttons to provide easy navigation or provide this functionality to our applications. For example, we can enable this back, exit, cancel button so that the user can navigate from our application. Similarly, we can activate the save button. So if you're capturing some data, then the user can click on the save button to save the data to the database. So things like that. So we have the standard toolbar, and below the standard toolbar, we have the title bar. So this is your title bar where the title of the application is displayed. So currently I've opened SAP Easy Access Screen, so it's displaying that title. And when we open different applications or when we create our own application, then we can set a title for that application here. So when they run our application, the user will be able to see the title of the application in the title bar. And then below that is your application toolbar. So this is your application toolbar. And here, as the name suggests, it can have application specific buttons. So based on the application you're opening, you'll see different set of buttons here. Again, these can be used as shortcuts. For example, you have all the menu options in the menu bar, but most frequently used actions can be shown in the application toolbar so that it will be easy for the user to use them. Instead of going through the menu, you can simply use one of the buttons available in the application toolbar. So the best design practice is whenever you're creating any application in SAP, do not keep any button in the application toolbar that doesn't exist in the menu itself. So application toolbar should be used only to keep a shortcut to one of the menu items. So this is your application toolbar. And at the bottom of the screen, this area that you see is called the status bar. Okay, so the status bar is used to display any status messages. Like for example, if the user is performing certain action and you want to show an error message, then that error message can be displayed in the status bar. So I'll give you a demonstration of these various screen elements. For example, from the menu, I can select different menu options. As you can see in the easy access screen, I see these options. But if I open ABAP editor, here I see different options related to ABAP editor. So this is my menu bar. And some of the options that I find in the menu bar, for example, if I want to execute a program, I can either go to program and click on this execute button, or there is a shortcut available in the application toolbar. So I can directly click on this button, right? So this is my menu bar. And in the standard toolbar, you see these buttons are enabled, save button is disabled, print button is enabled, find button is enabled, and some of the buttons are disabled. So the standard toolbar, the buttons are same. It's just that some of the buttons are enabled and some are disabled. If I do open a different application, I might find these 4 buttons also enabled there. So based on the application, you'll notice some enabled and some disabled. And these 2 buttons here that you see, if you want to open a new window, you can click on this generate new session. I'll be talking about it in a while. And this gives some layout options. So if you want to set some options, you can do that. One options we generally set is this quick cut and paste. What this will do is the moment you highlight a text, it will copy the text automatically. So you don't have to press Ctrl C or Command C to copy the text. So this is your standard toolbar. And below you can see, since I've opened ABAP editor, the title is displayed as ABAP editor. So this is the title bar. And below the title bar, we have this application toolbar, which has application specific buttons. And you should be able to find all these buttons as one of the options under the menu itself. And let's say I am trying to open something and it says this program does not exist. So I got to know that by this message, which is displayed in the status bar. There are different types of messages that you can display in your ABAP programs. So we'll also be discussing about that later in the course, how to display these messages and what type of messages you can display. Okay, so these are the different elements that you find in your SAP GUI screen. So these are common to any SAP screen. Okay, and this screen that you see, the window that you see, this we call a session. So in SAP, once you log into the system, you can open multiple windows. Each window is called a session. We call it a session because whenever you open a window, this window actually occupies some memory in the application server. So each session has its own memory area and it occupies some memory in the application server, and any application that you open within the session will use that session memory to store all its data. If you want to open any application, the application basically runs within a session. A session is nothing but a window. So when you want to open any application, you have two options. Either you can use this tree structure here. For example, if I want to open ABAP editor, I can go to Tools, ABAP Workbench, Development, and ABAP editor. I can click on this. But if I see this settings, if I go to extra settings and select this display technical names, then each application basically has something called a transaction code assigned to it. So even when we develop our applications, we assign a easy to remember transaction code which the user can use to run our application. So one way of opening the application is to navigate, which will take time. So every time you cannot do this, but each application has something called a transaction code, right? Here if you see SC38 ABAP editor. So that means SC38 is the transaction code for ABAP editor. So if I know the transaction code, I can directly enter that transaction code in this field, which we call the command field. So here if I enter SC38, the system will directly open this application. Okay, so I got the ABAP editor. Similarly, if I want to open, for example, a sales order application to create a sales order, then the transaction code for that is VA01. So if I go to logistics, like as you spend more time, as you keep using the SAP system, you'll get familiar with this frequently used application. So you'll know the transaction code. So you don't have to sit and memorize anything. And any transaction I use, I'll be telling you the transaction code I'm using. So if you want to check it out, you can just run the transaction by using its transaction code. So as you spend more time, these things you'll remember automatically. So if I go to order, so VA01 is the transaction code to create the order. VA02 is the transaction code to change the order. And if you just want to display the order, VA03. And you'll notice this frequently 1, 2, 3 numbers. So for example, if when we talk about purchase orders, the transaction code to create the purchase order is ME21. There's a 1, ME21N. And to change the purchase order, ME22N. And to display the purchase order, ME23N. So again, as I said, you don't need to sit and memorize any of these things. Just keep using them as part of the course, as part of doing your assignments, and you'll automatically remember all these transactions. So either I can navigate this way, or I can simply type the transaction code VA01 in the command field, and it will open that application. Okay, so create sales order initial. And here if you see, the menu bar is customized for this application. So you see these options, and if you have noticed, all the menus have the system and help as common. So these two menu options are common for all the applications, but other menu options will be customized as per the application, and they're not provided by default. When we develop our applications, we have to maintain them for the application. And similarly, the title bar displays the title. It has its own specific application toolbar and different fields on the screen. So this is your easy access screen, or any SAP GUI screen that you use will have these options: menu bar, standard toolbar, title bar, application toolbar, and status bar. Now, if you want to open any application, for example, let's say you have some applications that you're frequently accessing and you don't want to type it in the command field or navigate using the tree structure, then you can add your frequently used applications as favorites. So in the favorites folder, I can right click and select this insert transaction. Let's say ABAP editor is something I use frequently, so I've already added that. And another transaction we'll be using initially is SC11, the ABAP dictionary. So I want to add that to my favorites. So I can add this SC11 transaction code for ABAP dictionary, and I'll be providing you a list of frequently used applications and their transaction codes. so that you can just have a glance to get yourself familiar with those transaction codes. There are not many, but I'll be making a list of them and providing it to you so that you're more comfortable. So once I had added to favorites, every time I log in, this is the first screen that is displayed and it displays all the favorites. So I can simply double click on that to open that application. So you don't more have to type the transaction code or remember the transaction code. So this is your favorites. And as I said, every time you want to open an application, you open that application within a session. So you first have to open a GUI window, and within that window you can run your applications. So whenever I was trying to open this application, for example, if I open SC11, what it is doing is it is loading that SC11 application within this window. So it is basically terminating this SAP Easy Access application and loading my ABAP dictionary application within that session. Okay. So similarly, if I open SC38, for example, it will terminate this Easy Access application in this session and open my ABAP editor in this session. So let's say I have this SC38 open. So it did not open a new window. It did not create a new session. It is basically loading this application within the existing session. Okay. And whenever you want to open any application in SAP, you have two options. One is either you can terminate the current running application in the session and open the new application in the same session, or you can keep your current application running in the current session and open the new application in a new session. Okay. So for example, we don't need this easy access running. As I said, each session occupies memory. So if you just open a session and do nothing, you are still occupying memory in the application server, which is not a good thing. So we always terminate this easy access screen and open a new application. So let's say I want to open this ABAP editor. So this is terminating the easy access screen and opening my ABAP editor in this session. Now, while working on this program, I want to check something in ABAP dictionary. So if I open ABAP dictionary in the same session, then it will terminate my ABAP editor. If you don't save it, then you'll lose all the data. But what I want to do is I want to keep my ABAP editor window as it is and open this ABAP dictionary in a new window so that I can check and come back to my ABAP editor to continue working. So if you want to open anything, any application in a new session, you have to precede the transaction code with /o. So if I say /o SC11, then it will keep this window as it is, this session as it is, and open this ABAP dictionary in a new window. So if I type /o SC11 and hit enter, then it is actually loading a new window. So this is a new window where I have my ABAP editor open, ABAP dictionary opened. So if you can see there are two windows. So I can switch back to ABAP editor, then I can switch to my ABAP dictionary. So I have these two running in two different sessions. Now, if I want to terminate, now I've checked everything in ABAP dictionary. Now I want to check something, let's say in a function builder. I want to open one function module and I no more need this ABAP dictionary. So if I want to open a new application in the same session by terminating the existing session or by terminating the existing application, then I have to precede the transaction code with /n. So if I say /n and the transaction code for function builder is SC37, and as I said, I'll be giving you a list of all the frequently used transactions. So if I type /n SC37, SC37 is the transaction code. It will terminate the ABAP dictionary in this case, or it will terminate any currently running application in that session and open this new application in the same session. So I've opened this function builder and you see I have this ABAP editor window, and in the second window, instead of ABAP dictionary, now it loaded function builder. Okay. So whenever you want to open any application, you have two options. One is either keep the current application as it is and open the new application in a new window. So you use /o before the transaction code. If you want to terminate the current application and open the new application in the same session or same window, then you have to use /n before the transaction code. Okay. And if you just want to close all the application, if you say /NEX, then it will close all the open GUI windows and log you out from the system. So if you have open different windows and you don't want to close one by one, just simply type /NEX in the command bar to terminate all the open windows and log out from the system at once. But you'll be losing any unsaved data. So make sure everything is saved before you terminate. And there are a few more commands that you can type in the command bar, which we'll be looking at as we progress in the codes. For example, one command is /h. If I say /h, it will turn on the debugger. So whenever I want to debug an application, I can just enter /h and hit enter. And whenever I perform a next action, it will load the debugger so that I can see what's the program flow like. So it will switch on the debugger. And if I say /n, it will simply close the session. Okay, and it is loading the easy access screen. So it is terminating that application. So these are the different ways you can navigate. So one is every application you want to open will run in a session. So when you open this session, the window, you can open the application by terminating the current application by using /n before the transaction code, or you can use /o to open the application in a new session while keeping the existing application running in the current session. And how many sessions can you open when you log into the system? Technically, you can open up to 15 sessions per logon, but generally, since every session occupies memory, the basis consultants restrict this to 6 sessions. So once you reach the 6 sessions mark, it will say maximum number of sessions reached. So if I click on this, it will create a new session. So it will open a new window. I already had 2 open, and this will be the 3rd window. And if I click again, a 4th window will be opened. 5th window. And here, if you actually expand this thing here, you'll be able to see the number, session number. So in brackets, it says 5. And then this one, it will open the 6th window now, 6th session. And once you reach this, if I try to open one more session, it is giving me a message saying that maximum number of sessions reached. So this is the default 6, but if you want, you can extend it up to 15. Or 16, I'm not too sure. Okay, so this is how you navigate using your SAP Easy Access Screen. So once you log in, whenever you want to open an application, enter its transaction code in the command field to open that application. Now, what are the applications that we use to develop applications in SAP? So even to develop an application in SAP, we use certain applications. This we call ABAP Workbench Tools. So SAP provides certain set of tools that you can use to carry out your development activities. So all these tools together, we call them Workbench Tools. And there are different Workbench tools like your ABAP Editor, Function Builder, Class Builder, ABAP Dictionary. Either I can talk in detail about them in this session and confuse you, or we'll be discussing about these tools as we progress in the course. So once we learn a concept, we'll try to understand which tool we can use to implement that concept, so that you'll be more familiar about why we are using a specific tool to perform certain activity, right? So I will skip giving you an introduction to all these tools at once. Instead, we'll take these tools one by one, and as we progress in the course, we'll try to explore more about each of these tools. But initially, we'll be using a couple of them to write our ABAP program. So for the initial few classes, I'll be using this ABAP Editor tool, SC38, to write my ABAP programs. And I'll be using this ABAP Dictionary tool to perform certain activities at the central level in the system. So like when we discuss about something like data elements and stuff like that, we'll be using the ABAP Dictionary to create those things. So these are the 2 tools we'll be using initially. And after you write your first program, once you're more comfortable with the coding, we'll be exploring more about ABAP, and at that case, we'll explore other tools such as function builder, class builder, and there's one tool called Object Navigator. It is like an IDE within the SAP system, integrated development environment, wherein you can load any of these workbench tools while creating your programs. So we'll be using that at a later stage in the course. Okay, so these are the different workbench tools, just a glimpse, and the transaction codes, and we'll be using all of this. There are a few more. I'm not included all of them here, but these are the most frequently used workbench tools that you'll need to get familiar with to carry out different development activities. So we have this ABAP editor SC38, data dictionary or ABAP dictionary SC11, screen painter SC51. So we use screen painter to design our screens, which we'll be discussing later in the course. Then we have menu painter SC41. This also we'll be looking at. We'll be using this to design our menus, application toolbar buttons, standard toolbar buttons, so all these things. So we'll be using this later in the course. Then if you are already into programming, you know what is a function. But if you're new to programming, don't worry. Once we reach a stage where we talk about these functions, then we'll use this function builder tool to create functions in SAP. So we call them function modules. So functions are like they take certain inputs and give out some output. So they help you to create reusable software blocks, wherein if you have some functionality that is required in many programs, so instead of writing the logic in each program, you can simply create a function module and call that in your program. So that way they are very useful. So when we reach that stage, we'll be using this function builder to create our function modules. And similarly, once we discuss about object-oriented programming, then to define these classes in SAP system, we can use the class builder tool SC24. So when we reach that stage again, we'll be exploring this class builder tool to understand how you can create a global class in the SAP system. And as I said, instead of working with these tools individually, remembering all those transactions and opening them in different windows, we can use a single tool called Object Navigator SC80. Using this, we can create different things in one place. So for example, let's say I'm creating a program. I'll create the program in ABAP editor. Again, don't worry, I'll be walking you through this ABAP editor in the upcoming videos. Before we create our first program, then we'll see what are the different options you can set in this ABAP editor. So we'll be creating our program in ABAP editor, but if I want to define a screen for this program, then let me activate the program. If I want to create a screen for this program, then I cannot do it from ABAP editor. I have to open a tool called SC51. So I'll go to this SC51. I'll open it in one of the sessions that are open. So I'll open this SC51 transaction and give my program name and the screen number I want to create, and then click on create. Then I can create a screen. Similarly, if I want to create these menu options, then I have to open this transaction called SC41, where I can again give my program name and define a menu for this program. So I have to use different tools to carry out different things while developing my program. Instead of doing all of that, I can open one transaction called SC80 Object Navigator. So I can open this Object Navigator, open my program, when I select my program, on the left hand side you have this navigation menu where it will display various things, and on the right hand side is called the tool area where it will load the respective tool. So when I double clicked on the program name, it loaded ABAP editor here, and if I want to create a screen, I can right click on the program name select create screen, and it will load SC51 automatically on the right hand side. So if I say create screen and give the screen number, it is loading that SC51 screen. So I don't have to open it in another session. So I can use this as an integrated development environment, which is easy to navigate. And whatever elements I'm creating for my program, those will be automatically listed under this folder structure. So all the screens that I'll be creating will be under screen folder. So I can easily go through the screens of the program. So one program can have n number of screens. So I can navigate to different screens using it. So it's much easier to develop your applications using Object Navigator. But I won't be using it initially because I want you to be comfortable with these transactions separately. And once you're comfortable with them, once you're aware of the transaction codes that we are using, then we'll use this Object Navigator. So initially I'll be using the transactions individually, but later as you are more comfortable, as you become more comfortable, we'll be using the Object Navigator to carry out all our development activities in this course. Okay, so there are different tools, as I said, and I don't believe in memorizing anything, so I really don't want you to sit and memorize these transaction codes. We'll be using all these tools throughout the course. So as we progress in the course, when we use them, you will be in a position to understand why we are using a certain tool to do certain thing. So you should automatically remember those transaction codes. And this course is more practical oriented, and you'll be given a lot of assignments that you need to do as part of this course. So when you work on these assignments, you'll end up using these tools to complete those assignments. So that way also you'll be remembering the transaction codes and the purpose of each tool. So you don't need to really sit and memorize them at the beginning of the course. So don't worry about them. Initially, as I said, I'll be using ABAP Dictionary and ABAP Editor. These are the only two tools we'll be using for few videos. Then till that time, just become familiar with these tools. So that should be more than enough. Okay. So this is your SAP GUI screen and some of the ABAP Workbench tools. And that's all I have for this video, and see you in the next video.